is titled "No Woman Stands Alone in a Post-Roe America." So I think for many of us, actually all of us really, we have had abortion in our lives. It's just been a part of our government. It's been a part of the choices that we can have from the very beginning. We never have lived in a world or in a society that didn't offer abortion, let alone abortion up until the moment of birth. So I recognize that there are a lot of fears and misunderstandings and assumptions, concerns about what would happen when that choice, that option is taken away, right? Because so many people depend on abortion for X, Y, or Z circumstance, whether it's for themselves or they use that circumstance to justify abortion for others. And so when they imagine when Roe v. Wade is overturned, or when they imagine when abortion is completely outlawed, they get really scared. And so it's our job to remind them, point out, okay, the myths and the fears, and really show them and guide them to the truth of what would actually happen. So today we are going to talk about really the effect of Roe v. Wade, particularly on women, dismantling those common myths about what would happen if abortion was taken away, talking about then the both sides of the issue. So how is the abortion industry preparing right now for the reversal of Roe v. Wade, and how is the pro-life movement preparing? Roe v. Wade was thought to help make the issue of abortion really less controversial. It was thought that, okay, if we legalize abortion, we can make abortion safe, we can make abortion rare, we can make it a sustainable option for women. That proved to be completely the opposite. We know that it didn't make abortion rare, it dramatically increased the number of abortions, and it didn't make abortion safe. And so that's one of the biggest things that we'll talk about today. Interestingly enough, both women on the pro-abortion side of Roe v. Wade and Doe v. Bolton. Does anybody not know what Doe v. Bolton is? So everyone knows Roe v. Wade was the case that legalized abortion, right? But it only legalized abortion up until a certain point. It was called viability. So third trimester abortions were not accepted under Roe v. Wade's decision. But that same day, another case was passed called Doe v. Bolton, which went further than Roe v. Wade and legalized abortion up until birth. We are the only country, there are actually a total of 7 countries, but we are one of the few countries in the entire world that allow abortion up until the woman is giving birth. Those kinds of regulations on abortion are so extreme. Most of Europe has outlawed abortion after the first trimester, but the United States allows it all the way through 9 months of pregnancy. What I wanted to say earlier is, interestingly enough, both women who represented the pro-abortion side in these 2 court cases ended up not going through with the abortion. They had their babies, okay? They regretted being involved in the abortion cases, and they later became pro-life. So the woman, Jane Roe, who's actually Norma McCorvey, she had her baby, she regretted being involved and really exploited by the abortion industry, and she later became pro-life. Now, when we're talking about abortion in general, it is so easy to think of this in the abstract because our minds physically can't comprehend the number of lives that were exterminated. So when we look at this number, 62,502,904 innocent children, that number is just since 1973, and that number is just in the United States. That number also doesn't account for the over 14 million lives that were ended through hormonal abortifacients. So Plan B, birth control, morning after pill, those can act in a way that also kills fertilized eggs, kills human beings. So this doesn't even take into account the amount of lives that have been lost to abortion in the United States, let alone the world. There's about 125,000 abortions happen every single day globally, and we estimate about 3,000 every day in the United States. That is the equivalent if you filled an entire football field, okay, shoulder to shoulder, and you brutally dismembered or poisoned every single human being on that football field. That would be 9,766 football fields that we would have killed since 1973. This is the most recent data we have from 2020. We're looking at 903,000 abortions. Again, we can't even comprehend this number. It is the leading cause of death, not just in America, not just in Indiana, but in the entire world. More people have died from abortion than the entire totals of people that have died from war or battle or conflict in the United States' history. And then this is what Live Action really went with this past year. This data is probably from about 2017 from the Guttmaker Institute, and it reasons about 1 abortion every 37 seconds. So what did that do? The biggest point that I want you to remember, Roe v. Wade placed the entire burden of reproductive responsibility on women, okay? The entire burden of having to decide what to do when you get pregnant was now forcibly placed on the woman, and it allowed the man to walk away scot-free. Before abortion was accepted, right, if a woman got pregnant, it was the duty of the man to marry that woman and to take care of her child, right? What abortion does is it allows the child to have no support from its father, from its mother. It allows the mother to now be isolated because the pressure and the trauma of what to do with an unexpected pregnancy is now on her and her alone, unless the man wants the child. There is nothing easier than a pro-choice man getting to walk away from his responsibility of impregnating a woman. So it forced women to stand alone. Patricia Heaton, one of her quotes, "Abortion is a reflection that society has failed women." The history of abortion, when you really get into it, was first introduced by men to control women. The sex trafficking industry thrives off of abortion because it now allows a woman to be permanently available, right? If she gets pregnant, they can force her to have an abortion so she can continue to be used and exploited by the trafficking industry. What has the abortion industry done for women during Roe? Aside from dramatically increasing their profits, they have decreased women's safety. Why? They are not an advocate for women, okay? They are an advocate for abortion and abortion only. Planned Parenthood and the abortion industry, the only thing they have to offer a woman when she gets pregnant and she's scared and she turns to them for help and support, they, instead of support, they offer her and they sell her chemical abortive drugs or other dangerous abortion procedures. We know that they don't care about women's health, they don't care about women's safety, because time and time again, Planned Parenthood lobbyists have fought basic safety standard regulations. They fight against laws that would ensure basic safety requirements in these abortion facilities. Laws that would make the door frames a certain width so that if a botched abortion occurred, they could get a gurney through the doorway. Planned Parenthood struck that law. They fought it. Okay, laws that would require abortion facilities to be inspected regularly to make sure that their tools are being sterilized and not used between woman after woman after woman, right, to prevent infection, sepsis, death. Planned Parenthood fights those laws. In Oregon, abortion facilities are allowed to inspect themselves. In Illinois, non-physicians can perform abortions, and minors are not protected from sexual abuse or medical malpractice. We obviously know in New York, a lot of states, nail salons are more inspected than abortion facilities. And this is at the cost of women's lives. Everybody talks about how we need to keep abortion safe and legal because women would die. Safe and legal abortion is killing women. It is. And nobody talks about the women who have lost their lives because these gross and dirty abortionists did not care about their health. They cared about profit. The abortion industry is the most profitable industry because it feeds off of women's fear and vulnerability, and it uses that to make money. Carmen, her story was huge. You guys, does anybody not know Kermit Gosnell? Kermit Gosnell? Okay, so he was just a really awful abortionist who, his abortion facility, he operated out of his home for 17 years. Okay, starting to ring a bell. The state health officials refused to inspect his facility. They thought it was political, they thought it was controversial, and so nobody checked what was going on in his abortion facility. And it was barbaric and gruesome, and women were dying, and babies that were born alive were being killed by him with abortion instruments. The gruesome details, there's a whole movie about it. This is just one of the examples of the lack of care and just human decency that the abortion industry has for women. Tanya Reeves, her abortion procedure started at 11 a.m. You guys know much about the abortion procedures. It really only takes a few minutes, surgical abortion. They did not call an ambulance until 5 o'clock p.m. She had been hemorrhaging the entire day, and they waited until the last possible second to call for help because they didn't want Planned Parenthood's name being in the newspaper the next day related to a woman who had hemorrhaged after an abortion. Tanya Reeves, when she got to the hospital, had died because they did not take her to the hospital sooner. She was at that Planned Parenthood for 6 hours, bleeding to death. And I say all of that not to try and shock you. I mean, it should, right? It makes me want to throw up. I say that because this is real, right? This is horrific. And it is so easy to conceptualize abortion on social media, in the lunchroom. You know, we saw it today, right? Where students don't know what they don't even know. And they're trying to justify abortion in all these circumstances, and they don't realize what abortion actually is, okay? And we will continue to proclaim the truth of abortion, no matter how uncomfortable, no matter how embarrassing, no matter the rejection and the ridicule we face, we're gonna continue, right, until the day that abortion is unthinkable. And that day has never appeared brighter than it has this year. And so I want to talk about just some basic facts and myths of when Roe v. Wade will be overturned. This is the first one. We hear this all the time. Pro-choice advocates fear that women will be jailed for abortion or miscarriage. Now, we understand, I completely understand, right? If you were to commit a first-degree murder, you would be prosecuted, right? What we know is that before Roe v. Wade, I mean, abortion was still legal in certain states. It wasn't the women that were being tried for the abortions, it was the abortionists. The abortionists were the source of committing these abortions. It is a lot easier to target and prosecute abortionists than it is these women. And so the two cases that did happen to try themselves actually were both dropped of charges because they looked upon the woman as a victim of the industry, right? That the abortion industry not only victimizes the preborn child that they kill, but they victimize the woman. And so we know that once Roe v. Wade is overturned, right? We're going to push for legislation and laws that punish and criminalize these abortionists, and we're going to help these women who had abortions get connected to healing, right? Because of all of the post-traumatic stress, all of the consequences of an abortion, we want to connect them to healing. And no major pro-life organization or law is advocating for jailing women for abortions or miscarriages. Especially miscarriages. I've had so many students who say that outline abortion will prevent women who have had miscarriages from having their babies removed by a doctor, and that's not true. All of the laws against dilation and evacuation abortions are always on living human beings, right? We can't kill, dismember living human beings. Now, in the tragic case of a woman who has miscarried, right, and the baby has died, and she is not able to induce delivery, we can remove that child as best and as humane as we can, but we're not killing that child. So miscarriage doesn't apply. This is a big one. Why are we assuming women will break the law? I'll talk about that closer to the end of the presentation. Another myth, when Roe is reversed, abortion will be banned completely. This is not true, I wish. But there are currently only 12 states, not even Indiana. Indiana is not a trigger state, meaning once Roe v. Wade is overturned, there are only 12 states that have laws in place that will outlaw abortion in their state. We have a lot of work to do. Overturning Roe v. Wade is the very beginning of the pro-life movement. That is the tipping point of the end of the beginning of the pro-life movement. Because we know that maybe Indiana or Ohio or Kentucky will be abortion-free, but what about 2 hours away in Illinois, where a woman can drive and have an abortion paid for on demand by the state government? So we have a lot of work to do. Another myth, I heard this one a couple times today, was that it would reduce abortion numbers and keep abortion safe, that legal abortion reduces the number of abortions. All you have to do is just Google. You can look at the CDC. That's completely false. That is completely false. And abortion is not safe now. There is no such thing as a safe abortion. There's no such thing as a safe murder. There's no such thing as a safe act of violence, because in every act of violence, one human being is receiving the end of it, is receiving that violence, and that's not safe for that human being. And if this was really true, that legal abortion keeps abortion safe, why is the abortion industry fighting those safety regulations that we talked about in the beginning to protect women? Furthermore, we don't legalize acts of violence just because the perpetrator might hurt themselves in the process, right? We don't legalize bank robbery because I might hurt myself breaking into a bank or stealing money from the bank. Just because there is a chance that somebody will break the law to commit an act of violence doesn't mean we make it easier for them to commit that act of violence. I think this is the last one. Illegal abortion will create a pandemic of unwanted children. So whenever we hear about the foster care system, right, or the adoption agencies, it's really misplaced compassion what these students are saying, right? We need abortion because what about the foster care system? What about the foster care system? Does abortion solve the foster care system? No. We've seen that for the last 50 years. Hasn't done a darn thing to the foster care system, right? The goal of the foster care system is not to adopt all of the children out. Okay, the goal of the foster care system is reunification of families, is to stabilize the parents so that they can be able to care for their child when they are ready. Also, why are we reducing another human being? Why are we subjectively labeling them unwanting and then advocating for their death? Right? There is no such thing as someone being unwanted. That's a lie that's pushed by the abortion industry. So when we look at these real tragedies in our life, right, around us, in which there are struggles, right? Families are struggling, children are suffering, whether they're impoverished, whether they are in abusive homes. The solution is to fix those abuses. The solution is to help lift them out of poverty. The solution is to get them away from abusive parents or abusive partners, right? Abortion doesn't do any of that. Abortion sells itself as a quick Band-Aid that doesn't solve the root problem of why the woman is getting an abortion in the first place. And I think you might have done a meeting on adoption or foster care. You haven't? Okay, so it's always helpful to distinguish, right? The foster care system is separate from these local adoption agencies that we're talking about. There are more parents in the United States that have been waiting to adopt a newborn baby than there are newborn babies to adopt, okay? It's not as though a woman in an unexpected pregnancy will give her baby to the foster care system. That's not how it works, okay? Many times it is an open adoption or she can choose for a closed adoption. There is no cost to the woman who is in the unexpected pregnancy giving up her child, right? So it's important to make those distinctions. Okay, and then finally, we want to compare the abortion industry's plan versus our plan, right? What will happen in a post-Roe America when Roe v. Wade is overturned? The abortion industry knows that chemical abortion is 4 times more deadly to the woman than any other abortion procedure. But they're going to continue to profit and sell chemical abortions because that's the only way that they will be able to market themselves and survive. When we close down these tangible brick and mortar abortion facilities, that doesn't end abortion because we have pharmaceutical companies who will now be administering these drugs and mailing them across the United States. This is a whole nother problem to tackle. But they're going to continue to push chemical abortion. They've been changing the definition of pregnancy. They've been changing the euphemisms surrounding the word pregnancy, right? The idea that, oh, you can just take a simple drug, it's just a pill, right? It is just a pill. Women are lied to, right? The girl who turned to Planned Parenthood for support, who was then sold a chemical abortive drug, the first day she takes that drug, she's gonna feel nauseous and she's gonna vomit because that drug is now depleting her system of progesterone, okay? Day 2 of taking that chemical abortive pill, she's going to realize that her baby, right, the baby that had every vital organ, was now completely starved to death. Day 3, she's gonna take a second pill, and that's what's gonna start the heavy cramping and the extreme bleeding, and she's gonna violently expel her baby into the toilet, okay? That is a chemical abortion. She wasn't told the effects of it. She wasn't told she was gonna see her child in the toilet. But it allows Planned Parenthood and the abortion industry to, 1, not have to worry about paying the cost of disposing of all the bodies that they abort, right? They've admitted to that. Number 2, they don't have to worry about liability. If something happens at the abortion facility from a botched abortion, they don't have to worry about paying the fees for maintaining and upkeeping an entire facility to provide these abortions. So they already are preparing for this, and they are encouraging women to commit abortions at their home. Okay, these are called self-induced or at-home abortions, which is very ironic to me because people today say, well, we need to keep abortion safe and legal so that women aren't committing their own abortions. Women are already committing their own abortions, and that's what the abortion industry wants. These risks of toilet bowl abortions in a post-Roe America, I was listening to a podcast, so it says that there were only 24 deaths, right, and 104 infections. The reality is that after the first few years of administering RE-486 in America, in the United States, they got so many reports because it was mandated that you had to report any adverse reaction or complication with taking the abortion pill. they had so many reports coming in, they stopped requiring abortionist doctors to report these adverse effects. They just stopped collecting it. So this data isn't even accurate. I mean, this is like a bare minimum small percentage of what has been happening to women who have taken this drug. Not to mention, right, the women who don't even report because they've been at their home the last couple weeks dealing with their abortion. And so this is their plan. They're going to eliminate REMS. Does anybody know what REMS stands for? Is anybody a biology or med school person? No? Okay.
Rapid eye movement.
What?
I thought it was rapid eye movement.
Oh, so yeah, it also could stand for that. REM also means risks, evaluation, mitigation strategies. So anytime you have a drug on the market that is risky, right, that could have a lot of adverse effects, there are certain regulations in place to help mitigate those risks. Under this administration, the FDA is removing all of those mitigation procedures, right? So now a woman doesn't have to go to a doctor to get a chemical abortion pill. She can order one online. So any place with a Wi-Fi is now an abortion facility. She can order one online and she can commit an abortion in her home without ever knowing she was actually pregnant, without ever knowing that the pregnancy was not a tubal pregnancy, in which case it would kill her if all she did was took these drugs. Not even knowing how far along she is. Most women forget or are, what's the right word? Don't remember when the first start of their last menstrual cycle was. And so the timing can be off, because now if you have a baby that was actually 12 weeks or 13 or 14 weeks rather than what you thought would be 10 weeks, you're gonna have to get a second abortion. That first abortion procedure will be a failed abortion, and you could have the possibility of getting sepsis, right, infection, and dying because you never saw a doctor to begin with. And the abortion industry is pushing for this. This is their plan for a post-Roe America. It's gonna continue to isolate women, and it's gonna increase their profits. All right, now let's pivot, and let's look at what our plan is, and what our plan has been from day one, our post-Roe America. We know that we have been preparing to walk alongside women who face unexpected pregnancies from the very beginning. That is why all of these local maternity homes, pregnancy resource centers, these policies that don't kick a woman out of school or that protect her, she gets pregnant, she can't lose her scholarship, all of these things was built and enacted by the pro-life movement, because we look upon the child and the woman with dignity and with love and protection. And we want to make sure that the woman feels empowered and supported to choose life, right? So what we did was we compiled all these adoption agencies, pregnancy resource centers, maternity homes, etc., on one website with one phone number, okay? And we are blasting this like crazy. It's all you have to remember is standing with you, standingwithyou.org, okay? This is the website where if you are pregnant or parenting, it also has foster care help on there. You can type in your zip code and you can find people, real people who have been in your shoes, who can connect with you. Okay, this is the three core values of Standing With You. Empower women by informing them of their rights and available resources. Educate mothers and families on campus and in the community, and advocate for women as they journey through pregnancy and beyond. Why is it important for us to provide these resources? On one of the panels for this display, it said about 78% of women reported after their abortions the reason they chose abortion was because they didn't feel supported. Okay, the woman doesn't need abortion, she needs support. So we are going to continue to do what we have been doing, which is advocating, fighting, and empowering women with these resources and fighting for them. We also have a petition right now. The link is in my bio. I also can pull it up here if you're interested. 3 things: promote adoption and foster care reform, support pregnant parents and students on campus, and encourage family-friendly, work-friendly employment. So this is also our plan for a Post-Roe America, all the things that we have been fighting for that we'll be able to do on a larger scale once we start to decrease the abortion rate. And I just wanted to end with just some basic reminders about the kinds of conversations that we'll be having. Obviously today was Exhibit A of what conversations can look like, and it's hard. It is really, really challenging. I remember back in high school when I was a senior in high school, and I felt like I was the only person at Carmel High School that believed that killing innocent lives was not a radical idea. I remember in my lunchroom, in my cafeteria, when people found out I was pro-life, laughing at me, smirking, right, ridiculing me. I was having to debate abortion at the lunch table, and it can be so draining. So I don't want you guys to get discouraged by this, okay? It's really easy to. It's really easy to create burnout. But I implore you, I really feel for you guys. And I want you to know that there is an entire community of pro-life students who are in your shoes in Indianapolis. Okay, some of you have had the opportunity to meet them, to be friends with them, to partner with them and create events. We are not alone, and there are hundreds of thousands of us, if not millions, all over the country that feel the exact way that we do. These dialoguing principles, okay, listening, clarifying, it's always good to just ask clarifying questions, get them to explain their position, right? But guide them with good clarifying questions to help them understand for themselves where we are coming from. Loving, truthful people are always more persuasive than unloving, truthful people. Even the conversations that I had today where I probably didn't change their mind, they were at a point where they didn't think the pro-life movement was crazy. They actually understood why we were fighting. But as I was talking to Eric earlier, the biggest divide is whether we view them as human beings worthy of personhood, right? If we don't view them as human beings, then abortion is totally fine. There'd be no ethical, moral, religious dilemma for the majority if the child truly was not a human being, right? This is the biggest talking points that I want you to take away from this talk. Abortion ends lives, right? Dramatically harms women who have had abortions and increases the abortion industry's profits. Their plan for a Post-Roe America proves this. Our plan offers women support and love. Post-Roe America will fight the isolation caused by the abortion industry and place the focus on authentic support. Post-Roe America is better for women and preborn children. Bottom line, our vision for a Post-Roe America is a better America. I want to show you a video before I take questions and do announcements.
The Supreme Court appears set to uphold
6-3 conservative majority.
Abortion rights took center stage.
The Supreme Court looks to reverse Roe. What is the true cost of Roe? In 1973, 7 men determined that preborn human beings did not have the right to life. Roe and its sister case, Doe, made abortion legal all 9 months for any reason. Only 7 countries have such extreme laws. This puts us on the same level as human rights abusers like China and North Korea. 63 million preborn human beings have been aborted since Roe's passage. She is a unique, unrepeatable human being that deserves life, not Roe. Roe pitted mothers against their children. Women were told that abortion made them equal to men. Roe allowed society to offer the cheap solution of abortion and force women to struggle alone. Roe has empowered abusers. The abortion industry has used Roe to decrease safety standards, to increase their profits. Society has used Roe to cop out of supporting women. What does the abortion industry have planned for a post-Roe America? They want women to continue to stand alone. They want to continue ending innocent lives. They want to increase access to dangerous chemical abortion pills. They know that chemical abortion is 4 times riskier than surgical abortion. Regardless, they have removed common sense safety regulations. The abortion industry's post-Roe plan is to make money and abort children, leaving women without authentic support. Women should not have to stand alone. Women deserve a post-Roe America. Our plan? No woman stands alone in a post-Roe America. She is supported with free and loving support. She is protected from pregnancy discrimination. She is empowered to continue her education and her career goals. Families are offered support, including paid family leave. States work to improve foster care and divert abortion funds to promote children's safety. You have a choice. Which America will better serve women and families?
This is not just work or a hobby. This is something so much greater than ourselves. Unbelievably greater than one individual. And it takes, it can take a toll on us emotionally and mentally, socially, right? And there really comes a time when you have to decide what matters more, right? What matters more? Is my reputation, is my feeling of uncomfort, is my ridicule for being pro-life, does that matter more than standing up for the innocent lives that have been completely forgotten, completely wiped out by abortion, than standing up for the women who are hurting after their abortion? You were created for a time as this. There is no other injustice that takes more lives than the tragedy of abortion. And there is no other injustice that is worth more of our time, more of our energy, more of our self-sacrifice than the pro-life movement and then the issue of abortion. And you guys, particularly as students, have the most influence that you will ever have in your life. I mean, in that cafeteria, we probably had over 100 conversations, easily, in that 1 hour. That is 100 seeds that you will plant and that you will never know the fruits of those seeds. I've spoken to coworkers who have gotten in contact with people years after they did a display on campus. And what our display said, what our messaging was, stuck with those people, right? When they got pregnant in an unexpected pregnancy, they couldn't forget the girl in the cafeteria, right? Or that pro-life girl at school, or pro-life guy at school that didn't shy away from the truth. Our voice will carry for years and years to come. So thank you for all the sacrifices that you guys have made. Thank you for joining this club, for leading this club, for advertising this club at a school that maybe the student body isn't so friendly towards. But we have hope, and we have courage, and we have a joy that's awaiting us. And every single time we speak out against abortion, the babies in heaven are rejoicing. the entire community of our brothers and sisters that were never given the chance, they're looking down on us and they're cheering us on. They are cheering us on the battlefield. So I have just a few last minute announcements and then I'll take any questions. This Saturday is when we are going to host the Indie Life Conference. An incredible team of students that have been planning this for months have raised enough money from generous donors in our area to pay and fly these awesome pro-life speakers out to Noblesville, Indiana. So we're going to hear from especially Autumn Hagashi. She deals with harassment and cyberbullying all the time. She's going to give a phenomenal talk. Seth Gruber, who is a star at Apologetics, will be there. Caitlin Roosh, she is a 17-year-old running for Congress in Montana for the pro-life issue. We've got some great speakers lined up, and we're asking students all over Indiana to come together for this day. We'll have an optional event at the end in which we can participate in a light chain along the street outside the school. So if you're interested in this, the Instagram is indie_life_conference. They're posting tons of updates. The tickets were due yesterday, but the deadline was extended to this Friday. So this Friday until noon, you can purchase a ticket for $5. It pays for breakfast and lunch. And you'll have the ability to see some awesome speakers and exhibitors there. The Indiana Attorney General, who, by the way, all of the laws that we pass, the pro-life laws, they're immediately sued and they have to be defended by the Attorney General and by other lawyers in our courts. So he does all of that. It's gonna be awesome to hear from him. And yeah, are there any questions?
I don't have a question, but I have a comment.
Yeah.
Like, I really did not know much about the chemical abortion part, but it was like, I like how you mentioned that they had no doctor.
Yeah.
And the tube, like if they take it when they have like
A tubal pregnancy,
tubal, yeah,
they'll die.
yeah. I did not know about that. Yeah.
Yeah, that is what's really scary, is now over half of abortions are chemical abortions. Because it's so easy to persuade a woman who's just on the fence to begin with, oh, well, it's just a pill. You can take it in the comfort of your own home. You know, you don't have to tell anybody. And that's just a complete warped lie. So if you're interested in learning more about chemical abortion, type in thisischemicalabortion.com. Thisischemicalabortion.com. There's a huge, there's so many things on that website. There's a petition, there's a docu-series that was created by a woman who has taken a chemical abortion pill and has done the reversal process, so that process can be reversed if you haven't taken the second pill. Her story, it's by, there's doctors on there who are talking about the effects of chemical abortion, the dangers of the abortion industry. There's a lot of really powerful speakers in this docu-series, and each video is like 9 minutes long. So it talks about chemical abortion, talks about how it works, talks about how you can reverse the chemical abortion process, things like that. So yeah, that was really eye-opening to me when I first learned about it too, and how dangerous it is. But that's what they're pushing. Like, it's what the Romans would do, right? They didn't want the child, if the child wasn't to their liking, wasn't the right sex, if it wasn't the right weight, they would throw the child and leave it to die. That is what abortion is. And it's gruesome, right? And us talking about abortion, that's not what is controversial. Us having that cafeteria display was not controversial, right? The very act of abortion, the very ability to kill your own child for whatever reason, that is what's controversial, right? And we are just shedding light on them. We are the bearers of light. It's a quote from Martin Luther King Jr. People got so angry at him for marching, protesting in the streets, holding sit-ins, right? Bus boycotts. They got so angry because they said all he was doing was just sparking controversy. And he wrote back to them and said, I am sorry that you feel this way, but we are not the bearers of controversy. We're the bearers of truth, of the controversy that already exists.
So for people who are looking to get even more involved in the pro-life movement, what would you say are the biggest things that are happening right now locally in Indianapolis?
Few things. So definitely I learned that handwritten letters is the best thing to do to our legislators. So handwritten letters, specifically petitioning them, mandating that they request an emergency session to our governor. So this June, when the Dobbs decision comes out, as I said earlier, there are no laws in Indiana that would overturn abortion. So we need to request that our governor approves an emergency session. That's one thing you can do, is just write a letter to your representative. You can Google who your representative is. Another thing, obviously, is the door knocking once a month, right? All we're doing is just spreading awareness of other alternatives to abortion, right? Adoption, parenting, counseling, free pregnancy resources that don't involve killing your child. We do that once a month. We always need to increase presence outside of Planned Parenthood and Clinic for Women downtown. Definitely getting involved at your school club. Like, if you guys haven't been able to make a lot of meetings, try to find a way in your schedule to make those meetings, to offer events, offer ideas for other events, other meeting topics. I think the school is where we really need to start, right? Because how many kids do you have at Brebeuf?
About 800.
Okay, so that's 800 individuals that you have the power to influence like that. That's 800 individuals who might end up getting abortions or persuading their partner to get an abortion because of what the culture and the media is telling them. So this is truly the most important work. Outside of saving souls, this is the most important work we can be doing on earth. So continuing to be active in your club, active at school, and then active in the community. And come to this conference where you can meet other students and brainstorm different ways to get the message out there. This March, I think I mentioned to you, is National Pro-Life Chalk Day. So there's actually a group in Fort Wayne who, super awesome, they just found emails for schools all around them, and they're organizing a chalk day at the courthouse in their city to chalk pro-life messages in the public sidewalks. So that would be a really awesome activity to do.
And then also, I think 40 Days for Life is kicking off. They had the kickoff
This
party
week, yeah.
on Sunday, so we'll actually be there for their first day. Tomorrow is Ash Wednesday. That's when they're having it. And remember that we are going to do that in front of Planned Parenthood after school tomorrow. So if you can make it.
Oh, that's wonderful.